All right, everybody. Today we're talking about the causes of World War II. Um, we're going to look at five things: the Treaty of Versailles, economic depression, militarism in Germany and Japan, failure of appeasement, and failure of the League of Nations. Now, we've already talked about the rise of Hitler, how the Treaty of Versailles was harsh on Germany, economic depression throughout the world. We're going to combine a lot of those things with these five things, bring them up again real quick. But it's important to note that these aren't the only causes of World War II. There are dozens that could be attributed to this cause. And also the causes for World War One, with our acronym MAIN, militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, are still at play. Right? They are still helping to cause another world war. So let's put some of these things together, and just know there are other reasons that are not going to be mentioned. We could talk for days and days about the causes of World War II. So the first one, Treaty of Versailles, and as you know, it was very harsh against Germany. The biggest issue with the treaty is that it left Germany with an ruined economy. The people are going to be starving, and the government is in chaos. Citizens are going to be ready and seeking for change. As you already know, you're going to find that change in Hitler, a radical change, but one that the people were looking for. Number two is an economic depression. Economic downturns often create conditions for civil, political, and international unrest. Right? The hyperinflation hit Germany hard in 1923 to 1924, and the German people, once again, are looking for a strong political leader to resolve their problems. In 1933, Adolf Hitler is going to answer that call. And the German people are just excited he's there to answer it. And he's going to come in with a lot of promises that we've talked about. Some of those promises he's going to deliver, and it's going to put people, their confidence in him more. But some of the other promises they're going to forget we continue towards war. Number three is militarism, right? With Germany. After seeking power, Hitler immediately began, I'm sorry, after taking power, Hitler immediately began secretly building up Germany's army and weapons. Right? Although Britain and France knew of Hitler's actions, they thought a stronger Germany would stop the spread of communism for Russia. Right? Not a bad thought. In 1936, Hitler is going to order German troops to enter German-speaking areas like the Rhineland, which is in France. They're going to go into Austria and Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia is under the guise that the Czechs there are German-speaking, so they should be under our control, right? This militaristic actions are also part of nationalism. We want our people to be in our nation. We think we're the best, and it is imperialism. We're going to take more land. Oh, three of our mains, right? At this point, neither France nor Britain was prepared to go to war. They didn't have the means to go to war, and so they just sort of had to let Hitler do whatever he wanted. In 1936, Hitler is going to make an alliance, the fourth one, with Italy and Japan. The military alliance of Germany, Italy, and Japan was called the Axis powers. Right? That's a big one. Number four, and we will get back to number three. It's right here. Failure of appeasement. Appeasement meant agreeing to the demands of another nation in order to avoid conflict. During the 1930s, politicians in Britain and France began to believe that the Treaty of Versailles was unfair to Germany, because it was, and that Hitler's actions were understandable and justifiable. Some of them were, right? Some of them were understandable and justifiable. He was trying to get his people food in their bellies. They were hungry, right? To do that, he had to do some understandable, justifiable things. Not everything he did was bad. But then they started killing people because of their race. That was bad, right? Anyways, I digress. This belief of appeasement adopted by Britain was a I'm sorry, this belief adopted by Britain was a policy of appeasement. Excuse me, getting ahead of myself. An example of appeasement was the Munich Agreement of September 1938. In the agreement, Britain and France allowed Germany to annex areas of Czechoslovakia, which were German-speaking areas, right? These people spoke German. Germany agreed not to invade the rest of Czechoslovakia or any other country. Oh, nice, Germany. Appreciate that. In March of 1939, Germany broke its promise. Thanks, Germany. Appreciate that. And invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia. Why did we ever believe you? Neither Britain nor France was prepared to take military action because they hadn't practiced militarism like Germany had at this point. Then on September 1st, 1939, German troops invaded Poland. Fantastic. Britain and France are immediately going to declare war on Germany. They're still not quite ready, and they're going to do a lot after this declaration of war to get prepared. Um, but quite frankly, they weren't ready to go to war at that time. World War II had begun in Europe. Now that brings us to militarism in Japan. It takes a little bit back. In 1931, Japan was hit badly by the economic depression, as was most of the rest of the world. Japanese people had lost faith in the government. They then turned to the army in order to find a solution to their economic problems. Yeah. In order to produce more goods, Japan is going to need more natural resources for its factories. So they're going to need to practice some imperialism. And they do. The Japanese army invaded China, an area rich with in minerals and resources that they can take and turn into finished products via industrialization. Remember, industrial need equals imperial greed. Japan's got some imperial greed going on because they need some industrial stuff. China asked for help from the League of Nations. However, Japan is going to ignore the League of Nations. The League of Nations doesn't have an army, so they can't really enforce much, and continue to occupy China and Korea. As Japan invaded other areas of Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, the United States grew concerned about its territories in Asia, such as the Philippines and Guam. Japan felt that its expansion could be threatened by the United States military and then attacked Pearl Harbor. That's in Hawaii, right, in December of 1941, effectively bringing the United States into this war. World War II had begun in Asia, and soon after, the United States is going to declare war on Japan. It's crazy. And you can see in this picture to the left, you have Japanese troops, the 2nd Division, entering uh, Sichar, China. Yeah, not sure how to pronounce that. And then you have the failure of the League of Nations. And we haven't talked much about the League of Nations, but there's a lot that can go into that. The League of Nations was an international organization set up in 1919 to keep world peace. It's actually an American idea, and we didn't even join. It's crazy. It was intended that all countries would be members, and that if there were disputes between countries, they could be settled by negotiation rather than force. League of Nations was a good idea, sure, but it ultimately failed. Not all countries joined the League of Nations, and the League had no army to prevent military aggression, such as Italy's invasion of Ethiopia and Africa, or Japan's invasion of Manchuria and China. The League of Nations could do nothing for it. So, with all five of those things, among others, with militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalisms all coming together, and an aggressor like Hitler, World War II is going to happen, right? And it does happen. And now we're in war in the Western Front in Europe and in the Pacific against Japan. All right, that's it for me. Please remember to watch the how-to for your classwork. And if you have any questions, concerns, or observations, please feel free to email, text, call, or schedule a Zoom meeting with me.